Savage Dragon 118 from October of 2004. That's right on schedule. This is still a monthly comic book for the time being, at least for the rest of 2004. But the next year, 2005, that will not be the case. Erik Larsen's publisher duties slowing down production of his comics so badly that the fan letters reacting to this issue would not see print until 2006. That's a 14-month discrepancy, which is pretty rough. Things also look rough for Angel here, caught in Arachnid's web. But at least her skirt is staying in place despite being upside down. That's for the best. Moving on to the credits. Erik Larsen, writer-artist, Bill Crabtree, colorist, John Workman, letterer, and Josh Eckhorn seeks revenge on the developers who burned down his house and accidentally disfigured him while clearing the way for a new shopping mall. That is actually the plot for a 1989 horror film, Phantom of the Mall, Erik's Revenge. A deep cut featuring a young Pauly Shore, and it's free on YouTube to watch if you want to check it out. I'll put a link in the description. Arachnophobia. So last we left off, issue 117 here, Mr. Glum tossed She-Dragon into Dimension X with all of her stuff, which unfortunately allowed her to change out of her pajamas. And you gotta love this gigantic shot of all the weird shit going on in Dimension X. A well-used double-page spread. So nice that they used it twice. So this is the She-Dragon 64-page special, released in 2006, and it chronicles the adventures of She-Dragon in Dimension X. We'll cover this at some point, but I wanted to show how Francesco used the same layouts for this comic as the one-shot here. So, like, yeah, the first page, we'll get a side-by-side comparison there. And then the double-page spread, we'll get a shot of that here. Pretty cool. I don't know if I can fit both of those in the screen at the same time. And then even like the last page here, I think also gets reused. So just seeing, a different artist take on the same material. But looks like She-Dragon's going to be stuck in Dimension X for a while. Well, let's turn our attention to the humble home of the ever-loving Savage Dragon, where reporters have mobbed his doorstep looking to interview the new presidential candidate. So Dragon has been volunteered by another politician as a potential write-in candidate for the president of the United States. Dragon explains that he has nothing to do with this campaign, even if he wanted the job, which he does not. He does not meet the requirements for eligibility. He doesn't know if he was born in the U.S. or this planet, so his origin is still unknown, no birth certificate to scrutinize. Then there's a funny gag here where, despite his protest, Dragon somehow falls into politician mode, pointing to a reporter and "You in the back." And he immediately regrets this decision and reiterates that he does not want the job, and he hurries back inside. So his poor wife, Jennifer, she's not happy about all this attention. Meanwhile, the guy who volunteered Dragon, this billionaire, Ronald Winston Your Ass, he's on all the TV shows, drumming up as much attention and support as his money can buy. And then later, Dragon gets a unexpected phone call from the current president, George W. Bush. The leader of the free world has decided to reward the Dragon for all his hard work and give him a break from all these reporters on his doorstep, offering him a stay at his vacation home on the coast. Jennifer is kind of skeptical of the generosity, but Dragon is gung-ho, so he tells Liberty League that they're taking off for a few days. Then he throws his family into the Chevy, takes to the sky. So his classic car was modified for flight last issue. Famously, Erik Larsen hates drawing realistic vehicles, but he mentioned that he has a small model of this car that he uses for reference. But I think he eventually destroys this one, so he doesn't have to draw it anymore. So, anyways, they arrive at the presidential beach house, and it looks great. Jennifer has changed her tune. She wants to go for a swim. The kids are jumping on the bed. All is well until Glum and Angel head down to the basement where they find Arachnid waiting for them. And this may look familiar to some readers for a good reason. So it's a reused pose from issue 2 of the miniseries. Not like a straight copy, but I think Larsen may have traced his own work here, and why not? You know, it's a cool character pose. It's pretty badass. Why not use it again? Let's see. Oh, another panel here, actually. I wanted to call attention to the sound effects. So back in 92, we used this fraboosh. But in 2004, it's the more familiar thwip. Different letterer, different decade. Maybe they were more concerned about getting sued by Marvel back in the early days of Image. Not so much in 2004. So the parents, they hear the screams from the basement. Dragon leaps into action. This panel also looks really familiar as well, but I can't quite place it. But maybe it's just like a common pose. But anyway, Dragon eats a fist. Glum tries freeing Angel from the web. And Jennifer, she's no help at all. She's had her powers removed a few issues ago, so she's helpless as two more villains come crashing through the wall, chasing her down into the basement. And then when Arachnid catches a glimpse of her, he freaks out and makes like a reverse Kool-Aid Man, leaving a gigantic arachnid-sized hole in the wall where he made his exit. Apparently, he did not want the smoke. He remembers getting his ass handed to him by Jennifer back in issue 100. And I don't know where the fuck it went. Anyway, so that's just... so he leaves, and then that just leaves these two other dickheads, and Dragon makes short work of them, slamming their head repeatedly into the floor. And it appears everyone survived okay, but Dragon says he's going to Washington, D.C. to pay a visit to President Bush. Some payback for this sabotage and subterfuge. On to the final chapter of Mighty Man, The Never-Ending War Against Evil. Chapter 10, Casualties of War. Billy Berman lays in a coma while Mighty Man watches over him. I thought this prick got killed last issue, but apparently Nurse Ann Stevens saved his life. Barely. Despite him being a murderous scumbag. So anyway, now Anne has her powers back, but she doesn't seem too happy about it. She was enjoying her normal life with her fiance Larry, but now a spell is placed on her, and she hops out of her building's window and turning into Mighty Man just before impact, flying off into a place beyond time where she meets Fonzie. The Fonz is back. This is the sorcerer who gifted the Mighty Man power to worthy mortals. And Anne doesn't want the power, though. She says it's this power that corrupted Billy Berman. But then Fonzie explains that no, that dude sucked before he ever got the power. So, unlike Anne, who has proven repeatedly to be a good person, worthy of this power, so Fonzie makes it official, and then he fucks off forever, leaving Anne as Mighty Man with all the responsibility that entails. And this was one of the more enjoyable backup features that we've had in the book. Really solid art by Mark Englert, and a storyline that complements the main Savage Dragon story as well. All 10 chapters collected in a single comic. Maybe you can find that out in the wild. On to Comic Bits by Chris Giarrusso. Our boys are trapped in Dimension X, and they meet a stranger from a strange world, asking for the help of G-Man and friends, but it does not go well. Funny enough, this Comic Bits storyline also crosses over into the She-Dragon special. See if we can find that there. There they are. There's the guys. Pretty fun stuff. On to Fanatics. Just a couple of pages, but there's some noteworthy items in here. Larson plugging the new God of War miniseries, as well as Super Patriot War on Terror, both written by Robert Kirkman. Then there's plenty of letters reacting to the oversized issue 115. First, we have Dave Manley here. Dave is a new reader, and he started reading at issue 100. That's a rare and interesting perspective this guy has, but I'll quote him here. Wow, this is what comics is all about. There's tons of action every issue, not a bunch of talking heads. Great comic relief, character development that stays consistent with a constantly shifting status quo. Not to mention there's plenty of gratuitous cleavage and violence. I love the sense of danger, that no one is truly safe. And I have to admit I was confused the first few issues, but the narration boxes and footnotes really helped. That's a shocker. Now that I'm hooked, I'll be eagerly awaiting the new issue every month. I just wish I had discovered Dragon earlier. Thanks for making comics fun again. Dave Manley, Wake Forest, North Carolina. So, wow, a real glowing review that I agree with. But it's interesting to me that he was able to come to this book so late in the run and then still find it entertaining for all the same reasons that a day one reader would enjoy the comic. So it's really a testament to the quality of Erik Larsen's work. Same way like a good film will stand the test of time and find a new audience, Savage Dragon continues to do that to this very day. Next, we have a letter by Augie DeBuck Jr. He's got to be happier than a pig in shit. He was prominently featured in the Freak Force story back in issue 115, though he swears he's not as fat as he was portrayed in the comic. Last letter I'll spotlight is this one by David Velez, and he asked where he could purchase some original Erik Larsen artwork. Apparently there's a website where you can do just that, albertmoy.com, still used by Larsen today as a way to sell his original artwork, and I'll have a link in the description. I definitely recommend checking it out. I was looking through there, and it's pretty tempting because the prices are not astronomical. They seem pretty fair for what you get. So, all right, that wraps this one up. We have some art on the back cover by Yildiray Cinar. That's a pro artist. Still working today on covers and whatnot. This one colored by Larsen himself. All right, next is issue 119. Adios.